Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in with us on Access Facebook. Today, we are doing a Women with Disabilities panel, and we have some guest speakers. So I will give them a chance to unmute themselves and give a little introduction on themselves. So also just letting y'all know, for the purpose of this video, I will be turning my camera off so the focus is on our panelists for today. So whoever wants to begin with your introduction, and then I'll start giving y'all questions.
Okay. My name's Taylor Ritter, and I am a senior at SIUE, and I have systemic lupus erythematosus, so that's why I'm going to be part of this panel. I'm a social work major, so.
My name is Grace, and I'm a freshman this year at SIUE. I want to work with juveniles in the criminal justice system, so that would be more of a psych major.
Okay, so I guess my first question for you all is, I have a lot of questions, of course, but my first question for you is, what is your experience thus far been at SIUE as a woman with a disability?
I mean, for me, I started off as a transfer student, so I didn't come in and I wasn't here the whole time, but so far it's been pretty good. It was a lot easier to connect to services here than it was at my previous school. And most of my professors have been pretty accommodating when I needed them to be. So it's been pretty all right so far. Sometimes it's a little hard, but generally I found that if I need something, it's easy to talk it out. And if there's a problem, then I can get a hold of Access. So.
For me, I feel like I have like a more obvious aid because I do have a service dog. So sometimes when I'm on campus, I get a lot of looks, which is a little awkward. But other than that, I found Access really helpful, especially like the accommodations that they have approved me for. And most all my teachers have also been pretty accommodating when I need it.
Okay, so in honor of Women's History Month, my next question to y'all is, do you see any differences of the experience of a woman versus a man on our campus?
Yeah, I would say so. I think it's pretty obvious everywhere, honestly. Not even just on our campus, but at least on our campus, I think sometimes as a woman, it's a little bit harder to feel safe, um, a little bit harder to speak up, at least in like more public settings. I don't know, generally it's okay, but there's definitely been a lot of changes, even like in my lifetime that I've noticed since like high school to college. It changes a lot, and it's a little bit easier to be more outspoken, but you still get kind of weird looks.
Well, for me, I live off campus, so I don't really interact on campus a lot. And also, like, I feel like gender isn't something that I typically look towards, but I don't know. I feel like these days, like, just stereotypes take over, like, the judgment aspect of it in general.
Okay, so this next question relates to, this can be related to your SAU experience or really experience this far, but tell me about someone that's influential to you in your college journey and receiving accommodations.
So I think something that it's not like they were influential in a good way necessarily, but I really like avoided getting accommodations for a while because I was really focused on lupus is something that comes in flares, so I don't always need my accommodations, but when I do, I really need them. Um, it'll make me really sick. And before I realized that getting these accommodations wasn't a bad thing, I had some professors that like if I needed some time off, it was really, really hard to explain it to them. And so I don't know, some of those professors that made it a really hard time for me to even, I don't know, exist as a person with disability. They were really influential in me advocating for myself because after those scenarios, I realized that life wasn't going to be as easy as I thought it was. So,
For me, I would probably say my academic counselor. I have Elizabeth Sanders, and she's been super helpful in like all sorts of stuff, and I always feel like I can talk to her really freely. But she definitely suggested my access person Andy, and he's also been helpful as well.
What is one thing that you wish everyone knew about women with disabilities?
something that I've run into a lot is, I don't know, there's a lot of pity when you have a disability, and then even more so when you're a woman, there's like both pity and then like disbelief, I guess, more so. Um, so I wish people would realize like we're still capable of doing things and we can do them on our own usually. Sometimes we just might need help or even just for you to believe that it's actually happening is really helpful. I don't know. If people had more empathy, I think it would be a lot easier for us at least.
Well, I was also gonna say pretty much the same thing of like we're still capable of doing things. But I feel like accommodations in general, like they're kind of to make you equal to the rest of the playing field, because at that point you're at a disadvantage, and that's why you need those accommodations. So I feel like if people knew that we're still able to do things, we just need a little help to get to that average spot, that would be helpful.
Have you had any negative experiences during your time in college? I know you said you were transferring, and you're a freshman, so you both have very different experiences there. But um, have you faced any negative experiences, whether it be accommodations or being a woman? Because I feel like those are two very big identities. And identifying as a woman myself, I know this campus can sometimes be unsupportive of women, but what are, I guess, if you have a story of a negative experience, if you don't, that's fabulous. But I know that it's 2021 and some people still don't see eye to eye. So just curious if y'all have had negative experiences.
So I know I talked about it a little bit already, but like I said, I don't know, I've just had professors that when I like come to them or I came to them with problems that I was having. So like, I don't know, like the first year I transferred here, I got really, really sick all of a sudden. And it was during like a little closer to the start of my disease progression. And so I wasn't under the correct treatment yet, and I didn't have everything figured out. So I was having a lot of doctor's appointments, and I don't know, I was just generally unwell. I couldn't really walk to classes all the time. And I couldn't really be present in class some of the times. And so I needed a few different accommodations. And I mean, before I got connected with Access, it just wasn't really possible. There were like professors that would be like, basically, they were like, well, I'm not going to do anything for you unless I have to. You signed up for college, you should deal with it. And I was like, okay, like, I mean, I will do it. I just might need a little bit longer, not like much, like maybe like a day, honestly. Or like if I missed a class, there would be repercussions sometimes, like it would lower my grade. Um, Not that I want excuses for that all the time. I don't need it all the time. But I don't know. It was just really hard because I'm a really hardworking student and I really enjoy academics. So it's something that I really enjoy doing. Like I thoroughly like being in college. I like studying and I like doing my homework, which is weird to say, I think. But I don't know, I mean, for me, it's disappointing when I can't do those things, and so for, like, a professor to tell me that it was, like, my fault in that way, and, like, I should have anticipated it, it was I don't know, it was really harmful, it made me feel kind of, like, crappy.
Well, I haven't had any like terribly negative experiences. The only one that I've really had troubles with is like music, just because of like testing, because there's listening examples. But other than that, I feel like sometimes it can be a bit awkward to like ask for an extension towards some professors. But I really haven't had any other negative experiences other than that.
Okay, so this kind of like gets into your personal life, but not really, but kind of. But how would you say your experiences are in a social setting with like a group of friends or family versus school setting? And that could be regards to having a disability, or that can be in regards to being a woman. Like, I guess what I'm meaning is, how do you find accommodations when you're not in the educational setting?
Um, Honestly, in social settings, it's almost harder for me, than in education because in education it's legislated. Um, but like with friends and family, they don't have to treat me any different or like have more empathy for me because I'm sick. Um, which can sometimes be really hard because you would think that family would be more understanding of when you need a little bit extra or like your friends would be understanding of that, but sometimes they just aren't. I mean, if I can't be fully present, then there's like a really big expectation that I should be fully present and that I'm a bad person if I'm not. But there's just times where I can't be. And it's not that I don't want to be present, it's just not possible at times. And so I don't know, at least in academics with like the ability to connect with accommodations, there's a little bit more understanding in some situations. But in social settings, it's a lot harder. I mean, there's just not as big of an understanding. Like, people don't really work to understand your illness, and that's okay. It's not their responsibility. But there's also kind of this other bridge that, like, if you don't understand what's going on in my personal life as like a friend of mine, then there's going to be things I do that are going to be harmful to you. And I'm not doing them on purpose, but that was kind of rambling, but I don't know.
So for me, I definitely feel a lot better being around friends. I feel like the relationship is more casual and not as restricting. Whereas school, I definitely feel a lot more anxiety like when I'm in an educational setting. Um, I mean, that could also be because I don't know a lot of these people because I don't interact with them as much. And then for family, I don't know, it kind of depends because, like, my family and I aren't exactly close, but I mean, I don't really have like a big problem with them, so it kind of just depends.
Okay, this question might bring back some memories of the last crazy year we have all had with the pandemic. But what has your experience been shifting from in-person learning to online learning? Like, what did that look like for you? How have you how have you made it this past year?
Um, it's actually been a lot more not like fun or easy, but it's been easier for me, honestly, because when I have flares now, I can work from home and it's not a big deal if I'm feeling sick and I can't walk or if I can't get somewhere because I can just be on my couch and do my homework from my couch, which is so helpful. And of course, it's something I could have done before had I signed up for online schooling, but I I wanted to be able to connect with professors in the way that you are in person. but being online has been extremely helpful for me just because I have those challenges, and they're making more of an effort, I think, to connect this semester. Since they were going to be in-person classes, they're connecting more online than I think they usually would have, like compared to previous online classes I've had. So, I mean, it's been really hard still. Like I got really sick this semester, this past semester, but I found it was easier to cope with because I could at least be at home and I didn't have to go to class, at least in person. So.
So for me, probably like not having a like reliable transportation to school has kind of made online schooling better. Although I would prefer like a classroom setting. I feel like when I get to know like the professors, it definitely helps just my whole entire time in the class. But I mean, this semester in particular, I'd say online has been better.
If you could give like the biggest ultimate piece of advice for someone who identifies like you coming into college, what would it be? So let me simplify. Sorry, that was very complicated for no reason. If you could give a piece of advice to an incoming freshman at SAUE that's a woman and has a disability, what would that piece of advice be?
Be transparent about what's going on with you, and you'll find out who will support you more quickly, rather than like skirting around it. And when you find out people aren't going to support you, advocate for yourself. Um, it's really, really hard. It's a really hard skill to learn because I think as women, we're taught to be quiet about the things that harm us and to forgive people. But I think we have a right to stand up for things that are happening with us. And like when someone does something wrong to you, you're allowed to let them know and ask for better. And I don't know. I would just say advocate for yourself, be transparent. That's what I got for you guys.
Definitely reach out to Access. I feel like a lot of incoming freshmen either don't know about Access or they don't want to be labeled as a person with a disability, or even more specifically, a woman with a disability. But Access is like super helpful in a lot of senses. And even if you just reach out to them to like check in once a month or something, but I would find that a really helpful tip.
Okay, and my last thing I have for y'all, I guess I'm from Kentucky today. But the last thing I have for the both of you is what, let me think of the best way to say this. What is the best way women can support women on our campus?
Um, I don't know. When other women speak up about something, support them. Um, I think a lot of times we focus a lot on like our personal opinion about things without like listening to other people really. And so like people will say something and we don't really listen. So I don't know, listen to the other people on campus and support them by just being there for them. I think there's a lot of cattiness between women sometimes. Like it's easy to fight and go against each other, but it's also we live in a society where there's not really a place for women cemented yet. And so the only way to get there, I think, is to be like supporting of each other and lift each other up rather than build each other or like break each other down. Um, I don't know. So like listen and support them when they got something going on. If someone's got something cool going on, show up for them and celebrate them for that. And if they need help with something, help them. But
I would say open friendliness because I feel like women in general are a lot friendlier than guys. And but at the same time, like women typically are more conscious of like judgment, especially from other women. So I feel like if there was a lot more open friendliness that went around campus, it would definitely like help support each other.
Okay, so that was the last question I had for y'all, but if you have questions for each other, or Galaxy, if you have a question, feel free to say that now, but give it a couple seconds if y'all have any questions for each other. Okay, so I'm gonna, let me stop the recording and then finish talking so it's not just me. Stop recording.